Hi chess friends, this is King's Executor showing you the second game in the Sicilian Khan variation. I've made the introduction to general ideas in the Sicilian Khan, which can be called the Hedgehog as well for black, and the Hedgehog formation can be reached from many different openings and many different move orders. In this game, we're seeing Seirawan and Sergey Kudrin, and this game is from 1997. I'm not sure about the chess tournament, but I think it's the USA Chandler tournament, but I'm not sure. You'll find it by the date of 1997. Okay, both players are approximately same age, and let's see how they got into the Hedgehog position for black. Seirawan opened with knight f3, and here we see the transposition to the English with the c5 pawn. So this is one chapter of the English opening. But now we see this b6 move, which is probably a bit rarer than other moves. d4, and now we already see there could be a Marocci bind Sicilian here. Bishop b7, knight c3. And you see that black has some control over e4 for the moment, so f3 to prepare e4, d6, e4, e6, bishop e3, bishop e7. In the Hedgehog formation, as black, you want your pawns on this 6th rank. So you can almost play your moves automatically if you play the Hedgehog as black, but you always have to prepare and calculate for any breakthroughs white might try. Bishop e2, a6, and a6 is one of the most important pawn moves besides e6. a6 controls this square, and e6 controls at least this square, which takes away squares for this knight and for this knight to attack a queen on c7. So a6 and e6 are very important moves in the Hedgehog. So this is why you don't want to push a4 and have a hole on b5. Castles, queen d2, and knight to d7. Well, you might think the knight would be more actively placed on c6, which is in general terms true, but we've played a6, therefore weakened b6 a bit. In this instance, the queen is watching over that pawn, but you don't want to have heavy pieces watching over pawns. So the knight comes to d7 to have control over this weakness here. Also, the knight controls any e5 pushes, e5 pushes or c5 pushes, which it wouldn't do on c6. And the third part of the knight d7 idea is you want your rook and your queen on the open c-file. And the fourth part is that this knight sometimes can attack pieces at on d3 or put pressure on this pawn. So knight to d7 isn't as passive as it looks. Rook fd1, queen c7. The queen is safe on this square, safer than it looks. I've been playing the hedgehog formation not for too long now. It's quite a new thing for me. After a move like rook a to c1, I would immediately look for any possibilities for white to exploit the rook vis-a-vis the queen on the same file, which you generally don't want. But as you got c5 protected enough times, there's no immediate tactics. Rook a c8, and this is important to move the a rook before you move this rook, so that the queen can come here and get out of this rook's tactical potential. a3 prepares b4, and now you see the queen steps back and the knight on d7 comes in handy watching over this pawn. Now there are no tempo gaining moves involved, such as, well, knight away anytime to attack the pawn. Of course, in this position it wouldn't harm us in any way, but you'll never know. So this knight on d7 is good. b4, white is gaining space on the queen side and in the center here. Now you would argue probably, why should I play the hedgehog? It really looks very, very passive. I have no pawns in the center. My queen is on b8. What the heck is it doing there? My knights don't attack anything. My rooks don't seem as active as white's rooks. So why would I play this? The idea of the hedgehog is to combine all your powers and to compress it within this area of the board. And here you have many pieces which compress their power, which they combine, and if white overplays, then black can often unleash its power and attack white. And the first step to this might be, and now this is not the game continuation, but a possible move, bishop d8. The idea is to get that bishop to c7. For example, knight drops back, bishop c7, and now we are already threatening d5. In the hedgehog, you want to prepare either d5 or b5, but let's say d5, because then you would unleash the attack on this h2 pawn with check. So the idea of the hedgehog is getting your rooks into the center, maybe even to d8, having your bishops against the king, and if white overplays, he will weaken his position and make this bishop's work. Knights always can jump into the fray here and do a good job. Let's just look at another move. Instead of bishop to c7, h6 would be possible, and that looks as if the d6 pawn would be hanging. Well, you can decide if you want to play this. Takes, bishop c7, and now you see the h-pawn is taken with check, which leads to very weakened dark squares around the white king. And after rook fd8, black is ready to play knight h5 and attack these dark squares and move and maneuver its pieces to the king side. You can decide if you like this, or if you just play bishop c7, solid, I guess. And if a4, for example, seeing no threats, then black starts to unleash its power with check here. Takes, getting these white rooks uncoordinated and attacking the central pawn, and this is not really defendable. And you see white got 2 pawn islands. This pawn is weak, probably. The knight here is very strong. Black is not lacking the bishop pair. White king looks very open, and next moves are moves like rook e8, rook d8. Okay, rook e8 isn't possible, of course, but you see that you have some freedom here. Alright, let's drop back. So the idea in the Hedgehog is to get this bishop round to c7. So this is why you don't move your rook to d8, blockading this pawn, this bishop. So first you should move the bishop, or play your rook to e8 and then move your bishop, which happened in the game. Bishop dropped back to f1. Well, the queen can sometimes go to a8 and try to attack g2 here after some exchanges in the center. Also, white doesn't quite know what to do, because if white overplays, he will find black's pieces all over the shop here. So white does a constructive waiting move. Bishop d8, now the maneuver starts for the bishop. Rook c2 and knight e5. What I told you beforehand, the knight can jump into the center. We have 2 pieces attacking c4, only one defending it. Seirawan got his knight to a4, which indirectly attacks the pawn twice. Not yet. So d5 by Kudrin, very good counterplay in the center, and c5, b5, and now the question is really for white and for black, is this pawn weak or strong? You see now the black knight can get very nice outposts in the center, and the rooks are actively posted, whereas the white pieces don't really look like they're contributing to a certain plan. So this position is probably almost equal. I guess now without the dark squared bishop, which is lacking, the queen here has not the best job. So after you got your queen activated, maybe some pieces exchanged, it should be a rather equal position, but white got the bishop pair, so maybe black is a little bit having some pressure in the center with his central pawn, but then again this bishop looks a bit weak vis-a-vis these light squared pawns here. So there might be a slight edge for white here. The rook was exchanged, and now knight c4 practically forced the ceding of the bishop pair, and now I think black has almost equalized. The problem is, of course, what is it with this pawn? Queen d6. Well, interesting. Seirawan offers the exchange of queens, even though the queen seems a bit passive on b8 here. But the idea is, of course, that white gets his rook active on the 6th rank, and it's a weird position for black to handle now. What should black do? Black cannot attack the pawn, not very easily. I mean, if he tried, for example, knight e5, then after bishop c5, and next move might be here, and afterwards pawn to b7, for example. Let's give black a move here. Yeah, the king can come into the game, the knight can come into the game here, and I think it's a little bit difficult for black. Black is really lacking coordination here. Of course, black has this pawn, but he has not any backup for this pawn to push. So let's drop back in this position. Kudrin just tried to exchange here, and after check, takes, Seirawan gained a tempo, getting this knight to the 8th rank. Bishop c5, f6 to get the king out. Knight e4, d4, sorry, and now the king gets out, and f5, nice move. Knight f4, takes. King comes with tempo, and now the c pawn is kinda holded for black, kinda held back. And now the problem is how to round up white pawns and keep the b6 pawn where it is. Some repetition here, and now we're on move 41. The knight keeps the king out of the game, and the computer suggests f5 as the best move to get the king into the game anyhow. For example, check could be an interesting move here, and if you were to take with the king, that's very bad. The knight just takes, threatening to come to d6, attacking the bishop on b7, and then pushing the b6 pawn to queening, and black would have to sacrifice the bishop and be a piece down. And if knight takes, then knight e6, threatening the same idea via d8, and if the bishop moves out, knight d8 anyway, and black must hold the b8 square, and this is a very sharp and difficult position. But this would have been black's best try. So in this position, Kudrin played bishop a8, which the engine doesn't like very much. And now white gets his pieces into good positions. Of course, king f7 looks like a very desperate move here, but it's difficult for black to hold. So takes, and black does anything he can to hold this pawn, but unfortunately the h-pawn is rolling down the board now. If the knight would have taken here on c7, that would be losing, because I mean the bishop would like to come to this square, stopping that pawn, but the knight controls this. So bishop d5, h6, and here just knight e4, controlling the light squares here. And if bishop h7, there's simply this fork. In the actual game, knight f6 was played, bishop d5, and now a strong move, bishop e5, and the king comes closer, and there's really nothing to do for black. He has to control two passed pawns, and they're very far away from each other, so black really cannot coordinate his pieces. Check. And now white gets into the position, takes, and now it seems like black could hold a draw, but it's not like that. There's a tempo gaining move, and well, after c3, white still needs to look after b6 in a way, so the king rather comes hunting the bishop. And now of course bishop e3 is forced, and after king moves further, takes, and now we got some liquidation. And after king c6 here, and in this position, Kudrin resigned to Seirawan. The problem of course is after takes, and well, white just can't defend the bishop. That's very easy, and white can even sacrifice a piece, and there's nothing for black, and he's gonna queen the pawn. So in this position, Kudrin resigned to Seirawan. Of course, if you play the hedgehog, let's come to a key position here. Say here, d5 was correct here, but of course the question is who can activate his trumps, and the problem is this pawn is very far down the board, and this pawn has no backup, and Seirawan really knew how to activate his pieces and to keep the black pieces disjointed here. So very nice game by Seirawan, but still I believe in the power of the Sicilian Khan or the hedgehog formation. Again, the same position could have arisen easily out of a Sicilian Khan, and I hope to show you more videos about this if you like it. So please comment and like the video. See you next time. Bye bye.